is a video series about people who are fearlessly fighting the language barriers for their companies and customers. Many people have gone before them over the millennia of human civilization. The stories are sometimes heroic, but oftentimes end in lost fortunes. This time though, it's different. The technology is ready. Nobody needs to suffer from the foreign language barrier any longer. The world is becoming massively multilingual. Let's talk with the gurus who make this happen.
Welcome everyone to another episode of TAUS Talks. And we are thrilled to have two co-founders of Unbabel, the AI-powered translation platform, here with us today. Welcome Vasco, welcome João.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Great to have you.
Yeah, so Unbabel has been referred to as the unicorn of the language sector of the translation industry. We spoke to several of your staff, of your people, and they said one of the really unique assets of Unbabel is the company culture. Can you talk a little bit about that? What makes it so special, this company culture at Unbabel?
Well, it's good to hear that people feel that way. We've always put a lot of effort and invested a lot in our culture. At some point, it became more of a conscious effort, even though it started from just the way we are. In order to have a team that is strong, that is productive, that is happy, it's not just about work, it's also about other things other than work. And when you're doing a startup and it's high pressure and you're trying to grow as fast as we are, it's very easy to create tension, to have friction. And so you need healthy ways to address that. And for us, for example, the company was started during a surf trip. Surf has been part of our DNA. It doesn't have to be surfing. We actually do a bunch of other activities, but it's about for us, the motion of how do we create the space for people to spend time together doing things outside of work or in themes outside of work. From very early on top of that, we've actually put time and effort into thinking about our culture and to try to codify the values, to iterate over them, to understand and learn as new people join, how do we maintain this culture?
And I don't know I think this stems from our personalities, but also from our background. We always had a culture that incentivized innovation. So I think part of that because we were a bit naive of what the translation industry was when we started Unbabel. We're always trying to do stuff in a different way. And sometimes you just figure out it's not that different, but a lot of times it is different and it makes a difference. So sometimes I feel like we're not trying to get faster horses, but actually build a car with all the pieces in place. And then from the beginning, that's been very much part of the culture, like keep challenging, why is this done like this? Does this make sense to what we're doing? Actually, we have 2 TAUS Innovation Awards, mostly because of that. And I think that is something that's very important that we always had and we need to maintain as we move forward, because otherwise we're not going to be innovative.
Will you be the first $1 billion plus player in this sector? And do you compare yourself with the big 4, big 5 in the translation industry, or are you in a whole different category? How do you see that for Unbabel?
Our goal is to create a massive company. I think this is a massive problem to be solved, and there's a massive company to be built here. Yeah. In the process of that, I think it's natural that we'll go through certain stages. One of them is become what we're calling a unicorn nowadays. The other is probably being a public company. I mean, that just feels natural as a way to progress towards our vision. We're not quite there yet. Will we be the first? I don't know if that's the most relevant thing. There's other aspects that I think I'm more excited about of being the first. I want to be the first to build our vision, right? Because I think our vision is inevitable and it will happen. And if we don't do it, somebody else will. Of course, we keep track of what everybody else is doing, and we have a general sense of the industry. But at the same time, it feels like there's certain players that are closer to what we're doing and come from a more similar DNA than others, right? And so localization and translation right now is a very fragmented space. There's a ton of different companies doing different bits. It's actually impossible to keep track of all of them. The big ones are a little bit easier, but they're also so intertwined within themselves that there's a lot of subdivisions of STL and Lionbridge, and
Yeah.
they're not really the main thing. And so it's more of a general sense of, hey, what are they trying to achieve? But most importantly is just keeping focus on our own vision, our own path, and just drive as fast as possible.
Yeah, makes sense.
Also, I think that one fundamental difference for us is like most of the companies in the industry you see, they're service companies. We're trying to build a product company.
Okay.
It's different. And I totally agree with Vasco. Like, I don't care for the first ones as long as we can build a vision.
No, Vasco, this has been great. And you're young enough, fortunately, to make all of this happen. A final question, because as we said earlier, you're both really educated, as we can hear through all these answers from you, as academics, as scientists, as deep thinkers about the technology and the applications. You're not really trained as managers to run businesses every day. So today, in the times that we live in today, it must be very hard, going through this Corona crisis, this global reset, to manage the business. And as we all know, you've worked very hard to build up a fantastic workforce, a lot of skilled people, more than 260 until recently, because you had to let 1/3 of the staff go. That must have been very hard. Can you talk a little bit about this hardship?
Sure. I think that the first thing in terms of managing a business for us, and I think we are very privileged as founders because we are given the freedom or the ability to have support that normally we wouldn't have. What I mean by this is, it is very clear by our investors that there is a huge advantage for the business to have the founders at the helm as long as possible. And for that, the extra support that we get on quickly learning how to manage and how, not just from a business perspective, but from a person perspective. Both João and I have coaches. We surround ourselves with mentors and coaches that can really help us tackle and learn quickly. And then on top of that, the leadership at Unbabel is not just two of us, obviously, and that is the other privilege that having having money really helps is, that having a strong mission, values, and capital to deploy means that you are able to attract world-class people at what they do. And a lot of that, when it comes to a leadership team level, is world-class leadership skills. And so that also complements, right? For me, it was very clear early on that my lack of experience in managing, a large organization means that I need to find amazing people around me that have that experience and then empower them to do what they do best. And so from a management perspective, I think it's very rare that you have someone that can grow as fast as Unbabel is growing, as a company like Unbabel is growing. And so you see different iterations of a company where you need to always keep thinking about how do I upgrade the skill set for the current situation. As founders, we're really lucky because there's a bit of an exception there where it's accepted that it's worth investing much more resources on the growth of the founders as leaders of a company. Yeah. In today's world, I mean, I think like 15 years ago, it wasn't the case, right? It was very common that you'd start a company and investors would come in and be like, great, now we're going to put adult supervision and we're going to put a professional CEO on. And nowadays that's much less common because the benefit of continuous, like you do tend to lose something when you lose the founders at the helm. The ability to innovate becomes harder. In this particular crisis, every crisis is tough. This crisis, it's very hard to let go of. In our case, it was 93 people. It was a lot of people, but at the same time, it was the right thing to do. From a company perspective, we really didn't have another choice. If we looked at the impact that this crisis is having in the economy, in the markets that we play, you look ahead and you say, hey, look, our expected revenue growth was going to be X. Now is it going to be 1/3 of that because the market is going to be affected?
You had a lot of hospitality and travel kind of
travel.
customers.
That was a big market, and so it is the prudent thing to do to put the right size the company such that we are prepared for what's coming, because we do feel that in the next year and a half the markets for fundraising are going to be significantly harder, and the worst thing we could do is to put the company in a situation where we wouldn't be able to continue, right? That doesn't help anyone. So I think the team, given the hard conditions, did a great job. The VP of people, like all the leadership team involved, we try to do the best possible for our employees and to provide the best conditions. We not only would as generous severance packages as we could, but things like extending health coverage till the end of the year across wherever we're in the globe, to actually create an outplacement program where we have someone 100% allocated and just trying to find new jobs to the people that we let go. Sure. People kept their laptops. They have extended time to purchase their stock options. In whenever we could, we really try to do the best we can. And then there's an element of turning the page, refocus, and going as fast as possible.
Yeah, it's true. Well, believe me, I've gone through a couple of these periods myself over my career, so I know how tough it is.
Yeah, and
all the time you lost, first recruiting such great people and then to have to let them go. Yeah.